Welcome to Object-Oriented Programming. I'll be going over Java APIs or Java Application Programming Interfaces, concepts of object-oriented programming, and UML. Let's start off by taking a look at Java class libraries. Java programs are made of pieces called classes, and these classes are made of methods. Methods perform tasks and return information. Another name for Java class libraries are Java APIs. API stands for Application Programming Interface. As a programmer, there are two routes you can take when creating a program. You can either create every piece or class of the program yourself, or you can use some pieces or classes that already exist to make your life easier while creating the program. That's exactly what Java class libraries are for. Java class libraries are classes that programmers can use in their programs to make their lives easier. There are two aspects of learning Java programming: the Java language itself and Java class libraries, which are equally important because they make life simpler. For example, let's say that you want a part of your program includes combining text. You can use a pre-existing class that gives you the ability to combine text, so you don't have to add another piece or class to your program yourself. Next, let's understand what objects are. Objects are a huge part of Java, but first, let's look at them outside of Java, or outside of software for that matter. Everything around you is an object. Let's take a pencil. It's yellow, it's thin, it's hard. It writes, it erases. I've listed some of its attributes and behavior, or I refer to attributes as adjectives and behaviors as verbs. The same thing occurs for software objects. Object-oriented design, or OOD, models programs as real-world objects. It uses class relationships. This means that the objects of the same class have the same attributes. For example, a class of vehicles have similar attributes. Cars, trucks, and bikes have a lot in common. OOD also uses inheritance relationships, which means that new classes of objects come from existing objects and have similar characteristics and add on some of their own. For example, a convertible is part of a class of automobiles. It inherits the ability to drive and many other abilities, and it adds on the ability to move its roof. These are two relationships that are essential to Java and will be covered in greater depth later in the course. Encapsulation means wrapping. So object-oriented design wraps attributes or adjectives and behaviors or verbs into objects so that they stick together. This will be gone over in more detail later in the course. There's also information hiding, meaning that objects don't know the implementation details of another object. This is an important characteristic of all programs. For example, you can drive a car without knowing every single part of its internal body. The process for object-oriented design can be split into 4 different steps. First, analyze the requirements. Next, develop a design of how to meet these requirements. Third, use pseudocode before writing code. Pseudocode is to write plain logic in English, and then you must implement your design. This seems like a tedious process, but even the top-level programmers use it to make sure that they're meeting all of their requirements adequately. OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. Java is an object-oriented programming language, and object-oriented programming is used to implement object-oriented design. The basic unit of programming is a class, which has methods and fields, the same thing as behaviors and attributes, and it's used to instantiate or create an object. You build programs with classes like you build a tower with blocks. Classes are to objects as blueprints are to houses. Using a class, you can create multiple objects, and similarly, using a blueprint, you can create multiple houses. Associations are relationships between classes as they communicate with each other. Classes are reusable, which makes Java appealing to programmers because they may not have to write the same block of code again and again. UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. UML is used to model object-oriented design. And here's an example of it. So as you can see in this example, it's a very basic example of UML. And you can see all of the different logical parts of the program. And UML is used by top-level programmers to map out their pseudocode and figure out exactly what their programmer is going to do. Now you have an introduction to object-oriented programming.